Hello and welcome to WION Live Broadcast from Washington, D.C. I'm Simon Marks, and in this bulletin we'll bring you a roundup of stories developing around the world. First up, the day's top headlines. The world sets its eyes on a key meeting between the United States and China as Joe Biden and Xi Jinping prepare to hold their first presidential meeting aimed at improving troubled ties between the two countries. The Armenian Prime Minister Nikol Pashinyan sacks his defense minister following clashes with Azeri troops at the border, accusing Azerbaijan's troops of violating a ceasefire. British police say Sunday's explosion in a taxi outside a Liverpool hospital that killed one person and left another injured is being treated as a terrorist incident, but the motive remains unclear. Belarusian President Alexander Lukashenko says his country does not want the migrant crisis on its border with Poland to escalate into a conflict because he says it would be detrimental for Belarus. And the energy giant Shell announces a move to shift its headquarters from the Netherlands to the UK. It will drop Royal Dutch from its full title. The Dutch government says the decision is deeply regrettable.
Xi Jinping cements his power in China amid tensions over trade, human rights, and territorial aggression, and China's deteriorating relations with the world. The two superpowers come face-to-face virtually on November 15. Catch all the action, highlights, and analysis of the Xi-Biden meet only on WION. World is One.
So, amid heightened tensions, leaders of the world's two largest economies, the United States and China, are set to meet virtually in a few hours' time. Washington is hopeful the talks between Joe Biden and Xi Jinping bring some stability to ties. But from the origins of the COVID-19 pandemic to China's expanding nuclear arsenal, Washington and Beijing have been sparring on multiple fronts simultaneously. US officials believe direct leader-level engagement with Xi is the best way to prevent ties from spiralling towards conflict. Chinese officials say the leaders will exchange views on bilateral relations and issues of common interests during the summit. While a senior US official said Biden would make clear that he welcomes stiff competition with China, but he does not seek conflict. Last week, Presidents Biden and Xi outlined competing visions. At meetings of the APEC Forum, Biden stressed the US commitment to a free and open Indo-Pacific. Xi, meanwhile, warned against a return to Cold War tensions. Friction between the two countries persists across a wide range of issues, including trade, technology, Xinjiang, and especially Taiwan. Let's take you through the most contentious issues between the two world leaders. Relations between the world's two largest economies have recently deteriorated, in particular over Taiwan. In the face of Chinese aggression, Washington has repeatedly signalled its support for Taiwan. China claims the island as its own and has not ruled out using force to bring it under its control, calling the issue in state media today a red line. Beijing has been concerned by Washington's moves to deepen ties with Taipei. Xi Jinping is expected to use his first virtual meeting with the American leader to warn the United States to step back over the Taiwan issue. Both sides have indicated they will not give ground on this particular flashpoint. US officials are also increasingly concerned about China's rapidly expanding nuclear arsenal. China has denounced a nuclear-powered submarine pact that Biden struck with Britain and Australia just a few weeks ago. Washington's expanding cooperation with the Quad grouping is also troubling China. On trade, China is running far behind on its pledges in a trade agreement, Phase 1 trade deal signed in 2020. That deal was inked to boost the purchase of US goods by $200 billion, but Beijing has not fully met its promises to improve the intellectual property protection. Beijing wants tariffs set by former President Donald Trump to be lifted. It argues that the lifting of tariffs could help both sides by easing inflation and boosting employment. There's a tech war between the two countries that continues to smoulder. Top Chinese companies like Huawei, drone maker DJI, top chip maker SMIC and surveillance firm Hikvision are still on a US national security blacklist. And another issue that could come up in the talks is the upcoming Winter Olympic Games in Beijing. US lawmakers are demanding a diplomatic boycott of the Games over China's clampdowns in Hong Kong and Xinjiang. The US has repeatedly accused China of committing genocide against Uyghurs and other minority Muslims. This could potentially put Biden in a difficult position if, as expected, Xi Jinping seeks to invite him to attend the Games. Another flashpoint is the origin of the COVID-19 pandemic. The previous US administration grilled Beijing over the outbreak of COVID-19, though a US intelligence review under Biden found no firm conclusions on the source of the virus. Yet some US intelligence officials blame a leak from a laboratory in China. President Biden has asked Beijing to cooperate more with international investigations, but China has rejected such calls. So for more on this very high-stakes summit that lies ahead, let's cross live to WION's correspondent Susan Teherani. She joins us now live from New York. Susan, heard there a long list of points of contention between the United States and China. What is Joe Biden going to want to focus most on? Is it going to be Taiwan or the origins of COVID-19, the nuclear build-up? Where do you think this is all heading?
Absolutely, Simon. A lot to talk about, and despite all of this, hype around it, it seems like expectations are very low, and we're not going to expect a joint statement at the end of these talks. But as you mentioned, I think for the United States, considering the fact that the U.S. Department of Defense recently released the China military power report, the fact that Beijing will acquire some 1,000 deliverable nuclear warheads by 2030, and that is really something that the Pentagon by surprise, the nuclear issue on the part of Beijing. I think that's going to be something that the United States will be talking about with Biden will be talking about with Xi, but I think the Belt and Road Initiative is also a cause for concern for Joe Biden. Surveillance technology, cyber theft, and intellectual property. The origins of COVID, something that is a bipartisan issue in the United States here. A lot of questions for the American people still left unanswered, and I think that must be on the table. That's expectations are very high, and as you mentioned, mentioned the issue of Taiwan. It's definitely going to be brought up by Xi, and I think that President Biden will talk about that as well. We'll have to wait and see, but I think the issue of, it's interesting that a lot of issues that President Biden is facing here at home somehow is related to China. So there won't be any shortage of issues to talk about, but I think the supply chain issue that we're facing right now and the issue of trade and commerce can't be underestimated either.
Very much so. And also, of course, there's the issue of that recent test of what the Americans say is a nuclear-capable hypersonic weapon by China. As you indicated there, Susan, President Biden's approval ratings are in free fall. Xi Jinping, on the other hand, is set for a third term as Chinese president, it seems, following the plenum in Beijing last week. Are the domestic circumstances that these two leaders face going to impact the tone and tenor of this meeting, and also the issues they take on those contentious geopolitical issues?
You know what's interesting? Well, Xi is really enjoying a high ride at home right now, cementing his power grab for the next few years, to say the least. But on the other hand, China is not doing very well economically. I mean, neither is the United States, but I think where China stands right now is not in a very strong position, at least in a leadership role internationally. And for what you say for the United States, with all of its debacle from Afghanistan and whatnot, after all, the United States and Joe Biden is entering these talks at a time when it's fresh off the boat, coming from negotiations and discussions from Europe after forming alliances with AUKUS, the Quad. And also, you can't underestimate the fact that it's no coincidence that he wants to sign this infrastructure bill here at home just hours before speaking to Xi, really signaling that at the end of the day, democracies do work. And even if you are enjoying a high ride as, a leader of a communist party and sort of having that grip ideologically different from a liberal democracy like the United States, it doesn't necessarily mean that, your system of governance is working. So, for the audience at home, I think both sides will be appealing to their audiences. But I think Joe Biden, of course, will out in a stronger position at the end of the day, considering the support that he faces from the international community at the end of the day, and he has more to play on here at home as well.
It is going to be a very, very interesting summit meeting and a very interesting day here in the United States. That's Susan Tehrani reporting live for us from New York. Now, in other news, opting not to escalate the ongoing tensions in the Black Sea region, Russian President Vladimir Putin has rejected a defense ministry proposal to hold military drills in response to NATO activity in the Black Sea.
Нашего Минобороны было предложение тоже провести в этой же акватории свои незапланированные учения. Но я считаю, что это нецелесообразно и нет необходимости нагнетать дополнительно обстановку там. Поэтому Минобороны России ограничивается только сопровождением.
Russia has complained about what it calls a dangerous increase in military activity by the United States and its allies in the Black Sea region. This includes NATO allies flying strategic bomber flights and the presence of 2 American warships. Just last week, Russia said it had to scramble a fighter jet to intercept a British spy plane operating near Crimea, a region Moscow annexed from Ukraine back in 2014. Tensions are also running high over what US officials call a worsening build-up of Russian military near the Ukrainian border. US Secretary of State Antony Blinken has consulted with the French foreign minister about the concerning Russian military activity at Ukraine's border. The Ukrainian army locked in a conflict with Kremlin-backed separatists in the Donetsk and Lugansk regions that erupted after Russia annexed Crimea. Recent social media videos show Russia moving troops and tanks towards the Ukrainian border. Earlier this year, Russia also had amassed around 100,000 troops on Ukraine's border, raising fears of a major escalation of the conflict. Moscow later pulled some of those forces back, though both the Ukraine and the United States claimed the withdrawal was only limited. The conflict has already claimed more than 15,000 lives. Ten years after Libyan dictator Muammar Gaddafi was killed, his son is now seeking the presidency in Libya. Saif al-Islam al-Gaddafi appeared for nearly the first time in a decade to register as a presidential candidate in the country's December vote. The vote aims to end years of chaos and instability since his father was toppled.
The son of late Libyan dictator Muammar Gaddafi made a rare appearance in public on Sunday to run for president. Saif al-Islam al-Gaddafi appeared in an electoral commission video to sign documents at the election centre in the southern town of Sebha. He is one of the most prominent and controversial figures expected to run for president in the vote next month. The vote was planned to help end years of chaos since a NATO-backed uprising destroyed the Gaddafi regime. Saif al-Islam has barely been seen for a decade. The only public sight of him in Libya since he was captured during the fighting in 2011 was when he appeared via video link before a Tripoli court that sentenced him to death for war crimes. Despite the ruling, he never left the mountainous Zintan region, and his captors allowed him to walk free. The Gaddafi era is still remembered by many Libyans as one of harsh autocracy. Although he has support in former Gaddafi strongholds, analysts say Saif al-Islam may not prove to be a frontrunner. With less than 6 weeks to go, the rules in the election are still being contested. Gaddafi's formal registration may also cast new questions over the election.
Another blast rocked Kabul today. A IED exploded in the Kotsangi area of the Afghan capital. 2 people have been injured. The target was reportedly a Taliban Rangers patrol vehicle. WION correspondent Anas Malik, who is in Kabul, sent us this report in the aftermath of the blast.
I'm standing in the Kotsangi area of Kabul, where behind me, right at this point, if my camera person can just follow you as well, and at this point is where a roadside IED had exploded today. You can see the damage done to the grills, to the side pavement grills that were there. 2 persons are said to have been injured. The cleaning process is currently ongoing over here. I spoke to the Taliban officials over here. They've confirmed that it was a roadside IED that has exploded here, and that persons are injured over here. They've denied the reports that they've said that nobody has been killed in this act of terror, and they've also gone on to say that nobody as yet has claimed responsibility. 2 people are injured. The cleaning process over here is currently ongoing. Both of those who are injured are those who are civilians, and that they are currently said to be out of danger. Anas Malik in Kabul, Afghanistan for WION The World is One.
This is the 3rd explosion reported in Afghanistan in the last 3 days alone. On Friday, a deadly blast during Friday prayers in Nangarhar province killed 3 people. On Saturday, a blast near a Taliban checkpoint in Kabul killed at least 5 and injured 6. Now, in lighter news, the Pomegranate Festival has got underway in town. Every year after harvesting the fruit, residents of the Iranian capital prepare local foods, play games and perform recreational activities all around pomegranates. With full fervour, The festival this year will continue until November the 22nd. Iran tops the list of the world's pomegranate producers. Domestic production exceeds 1 million tonnes a year.
Iran is in a celebratory mood. The fanfare is all because of a fruit, the pomegranate. Iran is the second largest producer and largest exporter of pomegranates in the world. The fruit's juice and paste have a role in Iranian cuisine, like chicken, hormas, and refreshment bars.
Pomegranate is one of the symbols of Iran, and you can see it in many works of art and in many cities in the country where it is grown. Iranian pomegranate is famous in the world and exported to too many countries.
The Pomegranate Festival is an annual cultural and artistic festival held to exhibit and sell pomegranates, food products, and handicrafts.
Iranian pomegranate is a very old symbol that is used in Persian poems, and it is also very delicious.
Pomegranate offers numerous benefits. It relieves hunger and improves digestion. Pomegranates themselves can vary in color from deep red to yellow flushed with pink. As a tradition, pomegranate festivals are held across Iran to celebrate the harvest season during autumn every year.
People always welcome pomegranate season. Although still in pandemic and the situation has not returned to normal yet, there are still many people who come to buy pomegranates.
This year in the Iranian capital of Tehran, the Pomegranate Festival is underway from November 6th to November 22nd. Iran also exports pomegranate and other popular fruits to a number of countries. Bureau Report, WION, World is One.
Amazing stuff. I see that they started to be consumed originally in the Eastern Mediterranean in the 5th millennium BC. That is all we have on today's WION Live Broadcast from Washington. I'll be back again tomorrow for more global news updates. Stay with WION. World is One.
Many other